Hello, this is David Derovi of the Post+Institute. Thanks for joining us for this special replay broadcast of Brian+Post, The Truth About Consequences. It's an awesome presentation. However, Brian forgot to hit the record button at the beginning. But that's the good news, since you'll be spared a few minutes of Brian's rambling jibba-jabba. Otherwise, you've only missed a few minutes. We have included a 2-page handout for you. Page 1 is the diagram of the brain with the 4 quadrants that Brian talks about and their descriptions. And page 2 is for you to print about 3 or 4 copies so you can make notes to keep handy when you need them. You will be joining Brian in the middle of an illustration, but don't worry. Brian will be going over this drawing again and again throughout the presentation. In fact, you may want to watch this a few times as you begin to understand more and more of what is in this powerful illustration of how your brain and your child's brain functions, and to be able to relate to this information when you really need it in the midst of stress and dysregulation. Be sure to listen to the end, as Brian gave those attending a very special and a very rare invitation, and there are still a few of those opportunities remaining. We're sorry for the challenges in getting this to you, and we appreciate your patience. So now, enjoy The Truth About Consequences by Brian+Post.
So now I'm starting the recording. See, that's why I'm telling you, write these things down, because you just may not get a second chance at this information. So when the hippocampus gets confused, it then doesn't allow the interruption of the stress hormones. And when the stress hormones are not interrupted, they continue unabated to impacting the prefrontal cortex. And when the prefrontal cortex is overwhelmed in that manner, then all of your social and emotional challenges are presented. So what you have to understand is that there is a mechanism in your brain, where's my cursor, which is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is responsible for releasing a hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin is the brain's anti-stress hormone. Susan Kaczynska says, Susan and I wrote a book together called Oxytocin Parenting. And that's the title, Oxytocin Parenting. You can get it on Amazon as an ebook. All of you should probably have a copy. I'd actually go get it right now. It's like $2.99. But Susan says, she's also the author of the book Chemistry of Connection. Susan says that oxytocin is the hormone that makes love possible. Here's what's important about that, is that oxytocin is a learned response. So you have to learn oxytocin early in life by having attuned. That means when you cry as a baby, you have a parent that listens to you, they come and pay attention. Caring, when they come and pay attention to you, they pick you up. Affectionate, so they hold you, they rock you, and they're consistent, so that when you cry one time and then you cry the next time, the ways in which they respond to you become consistent. It's not cry one time, get soothing, cry another time, get ignored, cry another time, get food, cry another time, get smacked. It's attuned, caring, affectionate, consistent parenting. And it is through that process that the brain is trained to release oxytocin. So what has to happen is when the amygdala gets triggered and it releases the cortisol, or it's really not cortisol, it's think it's ACTH, adrenocorticotropin releasing factor, corticotropin hormone, and then that combines with another hormone called CRF, which is corticotropin releasing factor, and those two form cortisol. So when they pass through the pituitary and the hypothalamus is supposed to get triggered to release oxytocin in a counterbalancing effect. So where you have more stress here, let's say it's getting weighted down with the stress, because the hypothalamus is working effectively, it's releasing oxytocin, which is then creating a counterbalance, if you will. I'm going to try to draw my little balance system. It's creating a balance to the cortisol. And by creating a balance to the cortisol, what it does is it slows down the outpourings of cortisol so that when it comes to the hippocampus is able to function effectively. It's able to remember. It is able to think through otherwise confusing situations. And then the messages, as it comes on to the cortex, to the prefrontal cortex, allow the individual to operate effectively in social and emotional situations. However, if you don't get, and this has to occur early in life, like we're talking in the first 3, 4, 5 years of life, you have to be over here getting these amazing things. If you're not getting these amazing things during this early phase, or if something tragic is occurring in your life, like a really stressed out biological care figure, or in utero drug exposure, or in the case of adopted children not being wanted by their biological parent, or not being able to be cared for by a biological parent, then essentially what happens is the developing fetus, the brain system of the developing fetus is exposed to high levels of stress. And the high levels of stress release even higher levels of stress, which are then slowing down the overall development of the brain. And not only is it slowing down the overall development of the brain, but those same messages are being stored in the brain stem. So what happens when those messages are being stored in the brain stem is that from that point forward, let's clear this off. From that point forward, and let's say that was like the 2-year-old brain, and let's call this, the 16-year-old brain. So now we have the 16-year-old brain. We are way away from any understanding of the early experiences. We've forgotten about them. They're just not as significant anymore. But the 16-year-old brain may not have the same experiences, not the same present-day experiences. So there may not be the stress. So I'll call that present-day experiences are less stressful. All right, and that's usually where we're kind of entering as parents. We're getting to the present day. Our kids start to have more and more issues, and we say everything is cool. What's the problem? We've done everything we could over the years. It's kind of like the dad. He emailed me. He didn't email me. I think it was a Facebook reply. He was mad because I was talking about love and fear, and he was like, that's just a bunch of hocus pocus apologism or something like that. I can't remember what he said. And come to find out, he's had to put his kid in residential, and he says, he's got to start taking some responsibility at some point in time. And yes, that's true. However, if he is never taught responsibility, it becomes increasingly more difficult for him to learn it. So over here at the level of his amygdala, he's out of the past stressful experiences, but every time his amygdala gets triggered, every time he gets stressed now, even at 16 years old, that stress is dipping into the memory system, which is his brainstem. And see, what happens is when that stress from present day is dipping into the memory system of his brain, then it is also connecting cellularly to all the other parts of his body. Okay, so everything gets triggered from as far back as he can remember, from the present day experience. And you're wondering, what the heck does this have to do with consequences? It has everything to do with consequences. If you can grasp this and see, here's what I want to do in this presentation tonight. I want to empower you with just a sliver of education that gives you a moment to think about why you do what you do and how you might be able to do something different. That's all I want to be able to do this evening, is just give you an opportunity. So when his activated amygdala digs into that brainstem, and it always does, I mean, this is intimately connected right here, then the stress, and it could be, say, you know, not getting to go to PetSmart, you know, because he wants to buy a snake or something. So not getting to go to PetSmart, he all of a sudden flips, it drives into his brainstem, it connects to all the other abandonment he has felt in his life, all the other rejection, and the stress, the cortisol coming from that moment is just huge. I mean, it is an amazing outpouring. And then you have, you know, the hypothalamus here, which is supposed to, you know, release oxytocin. So let's say over the years, because he's had the go back, let me get my pen over here. He's had the attuned parents, right? You've done all the things you know to do. You've done things you deal with your biological children, what have you. He's had the caring. He's had the consistent, right? He's had the affectionate. You know, he's had all that. So because he's had all that, his hypothalamus is actually releasing some amount of oxytocin. But that amount of oxytocin is swimming way upstream in the midst of the cortisol. I mean, he doesn't have a fighting chance to be able to calm that down. So when that oxytocin is unable to calm down those cortisol outpourings continue unabated over the hippocampus. Okay, over the thinking brain, over the thinking. And that thinking gets all distorted and confused, and then it dictates the social and emotional. So before you know it, he's cussing you out. You know, before you know it, he's running away. Before you know it, he's acting out. Before you know it, he's attacking you. Before you know it, he's tearing something up in the house. You know, or before you know it, he's acting out sexually, or he's drinking alcohol or smoking cigarettes. It's because all of those things, and see, this is a tough one. All of those behaviors, all of those negative, all of those negative behaviors are attempts to release, somebody guessed it, I could feel it, oxytocin. So all these negative behaviors that your child is demonstrating, as dysfunctional as they may seem, they're all attempts to generate oxytocin. his vision about going to PetSmart was about some degree of self-soothing. So let's look at this for a minute. What happens when we start talking about consequences? See, let's just establish something. What have all of you been told why you have to give your children consequences? You have to give them consequences to teach them responsibility, right? That is a biggie. Responsibility. Oh, so I'm tearing down the ivory towers. We're going to start talking about all this stuff. And sometimes it's stressful. So you've been taught that giving a child consequences teaches them responsibility. It's not true. The truth about consequences is that it doesn't teach children responsibility. What consequences do, where's my pen at? Consequences don't teach responsibility, they teach reactivity. Okay, let me explain that. A consequence is a reaction to an action. Right? And children learn the majority of the time by modeling. Okay? Children learn not what we say, not from what we say to them. They don't learn from what we do to them. They learn by how we do it, how we feel when we are doing it. So you have been taught that consequences actually teach children responsibility, but here's the way that works. I really hope you get this one. And I love this little diagram. I came up with this diagram, gosh, about 4 years ago, and had some therapists just asking me, when are you going to teach a webinar on this diagram so we can really look at it? And I was actually giving a talk at the Illinois State Social Worker Association. I walked in, I heard another presenter was there basically teaching my model, the stress model and everything, and I went into her room and I just kind of broke this little diagram down for her on the board to give her just a even more simplified way of looking at this. So we go back to the amygdala. Oh, looky here. See, here's where negative behavior, the roots of negative behavior, lie right here in the amygdala. But you know what else? You know what else lies right here in the roots of in the root of the emotions? Let me see. Let me get here. Let me show you what else lies here. What else lies here are consequences. Oh, you know how? Oh my gosh. Think about that, y'all. When your child is misbehaving, what that is doing is number one, it is proof of their amygdala activation, okay, which is proof of their stress, which, that's cortisol. It's proof of their fear, because anytime your body goes into a state of stress, your system goes into survival. Fear is the emotion most directly connected to survival. And it's also communicating distortion. So they're not thinking clearly. So what happens, and you have to forgive me because I keep clearing this off, but I think you should be writing this model down for yourself, and you can you'd have all these. This is the perfect handouts for you right now. You could just be following everything I'm doing. Then you're getting reinforcement in your learning. You're following along with what I'm doing. You're completely connected. You're being completely attuned to the webinar right now. You're not distracted doing something else. I know you may have other things to do because this is evening time, But it's, I appreciate it if you are following along here. So we got our brainstem here, right? So, this is dad, and this is child. And what's happening is, for whatever reason, child's amygdala has gotten triggered. And once child's amygdala is triggered, it's, pumping out the cortisol. And depending on how much triggered the child is going to depend on, how much oxytocin is going to be released counter to it. All right, but let's say it's just enough oxytocin to disrupt one pathway, but let's say that stress is big enough for like 4 pathways. So you have number 1 pathway, the oxytocin prevents, and you got 2, 3, and 4 pathways. Well, the unfortunate thing, the sad thing, is that dad, if he's been negatively conditioned, which most of us have been, as soon as his amygdala senses child stress and activation, it's really brainstem stuff. The brainstem stuff of the child sends an alarm to the brainstem of the adult. That's a safety mechanism. So that's just like a back and forth process. So when that occurs, the amygdala, if the dad is not being mindful, his amygdala is getting activated. And the moment his amygdala gets activated, guess what? He starts to release cortisol. Well, and then guess what happens is he's not releasing enough oxytocin either. And because he's not releasing enough oxytocin, then we come up to his hippocampus, and by this time, he's got enough cortisol to kind of disrupt his hippocampus. So now he's confused. He's not thinking clearly, right? All right, so you still have the child over here who's continuing in their escalation because you have these 3 unabated pathways of cortisol being released, which is affecting his hippocampus. And then that's also affecting over here his prefrontal cortex. And as it's affecting his prefrontal cortex, then it's affecting his social and his emotional, right? So look how we have that going on there. I know you're following me. This is good stuff. So as it's affecting his social and his emotional, dad's amygdala's confusing his thinking. And so his confused thoughts come over his prefrontal. It affects his social and his emotional. And guess what dad says? Dad says, if you don't stop, then such and such is going to happen. Or dad says, look at how this goes. Dad says, oh, big mistake. You just showed me that you don't need ice cream. Oh, no. If you're going to act like that, no car keys. I told you to be in at midnight. If you can't be in at midnight, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you can't handle that? Well, I'll give you 100 jumping jacks. Or I'll send you outside and you can pick up poop. So, and not go out with your friends. So see what happens? See, and so, oh gosh, are you getting this? I know some of you are because I can feel it. I mean, my sensitivity knows no limits. So the confusion comes in. And the depressed short-term thinking comes in because dad thinks, even though he knows, dad thinks that this is going to make a difference. Dad thinks that this is going to affect the amygdala and make the amygdala settle down. Dad believes, illogically and irrationally, that this is what's going to cause the release of oxytocin. And by releasing oxytocin, he believes it is going to eventually calm down his child's stress. See how he's going about it? But actually what happens is dad's confusion and distortion, and his illogical beliefs drive the child's confusion and distortion, which suppresses the child's oxytocin, and their circle just continues. And then probably The child does something more to piss dad off, and then it just continues. And before long, what do you have? That, ladies and gentlemen, is called a negative feedback loop. So what happens is you get a negative feedback loop. See, that's the truth about consequences. That's what you don't ever hear. Consequences do not release oxytocin. And if some parenting behavior, function of behavior, molding or behavior modification or whatever it is that you do, if it's not releasing oxytocin, it's not going to interrupt the stress. Because remember, your child already has issues associated with their brainstem, which may or may not have anything to do with you. So you have to think about that. I really want you to think about that. That's the truth about consequence. So what happens, before I erase the slide, what happens is that what is being taught to the child, what is being modeled to the child, is actually how to be reactive when you're stressed. I'm teaching you how to be reactive when you're stressed. So I'm actually not teaching you responsibility. It's physiologically impossible for me to teach you responsibility when I am in an escalated state of stress myself. Now, let's try it again. I hope you diagram with me. And I know some of you may be completely stressed out at home right now about what's going on. And this is probably going to feel pretty overwhelming to you. But at the same level that it feels overwhelming, it can also be quite enlightening. It can also set you free from a lot of hostilities and even a sense of helplessness to kind of dictate your child's behavior. When your child, and this is so simple, you're going to notice that the diagram I'm about to share with you is going to get a lot more basic than the last one. So when your child is activated, so when their amygdala is activated and they're releasing stress, cortisol, and that's coming over here to the hypothalamus, which is unable to release enough oxytocin. So you can give me any behavior. Any behavior. We know their thinking's confused. Let's just say they're yelling. It's very simple. When your child's yelling at you, oh gosh, it's as simple as this is, it just has so many depths, so much depth. So they're confused, and now their brain is, they're yelling, so they're yelling at you or cussing. Their brain's confused. They think you're, the worst person ever. Their social and emotional skills are increasingly going down by doing these things here. So it's once the social and emotional starts to diminish. When the social and emotional starts to diminish, that's when you get all the negative behavior, because the prefrontal cortex is responsible for all that behavior. So when you're over here, and we can't help but to get agitated. We can't help but feel stressed. We can't help but feel a little overwhelmed. So when you're over here, you have to begin reconditioning. See, and that is the process. See, the stuff down here at the level of the brainstem, the negative experiences, whatever they may be for you as an adult, they never go away. All right? But what you can do is you can recondition these reaction patterns. So when your brainstems are communicating back and forth to one another, and your child is all kinds of stressed out, if you can begin to not personalize, that's such a big statement. If you cannot personalize that, if you can say in that moment this isn't about me. If you can say in that moment, wow, my kid is really stressed. If you can say, bless his heart, he's so stressed. If you can move beyond, I want to kill you, just try me. See, if you can move beyond that, literally move up a level, see, that's lower level communication. See, that's what the amygdala says. I want to kill you, just try me, go ahead, it'll be the worst thing you ever done. That's lower level, lower brain level communication. If you can move up to this level, and the only way to move up to this level, to really be active in this level, is to calm this level down. So how do you do that? The process of calming that down, first, it's repetition. You have to make a concerted effort to do it. All right? Then it's mindfulness practice. All right? Then it's not taking it personally, realizing it's not about you. Okay? Then it is spending some time and looking at what's buried here in the level of your brainstem. All right? What do you have going on at your own brainstem level that's significant, which continues to get triggered every time your child's brainstem communicates with your brainstem? So what's going on there? You know, what abandonment, what rejection, what trauma, what abuses may you have suffered, or any number of things, just hurt feelings. It doesn't matter. Or maybe it's genetic. Okay, maybe it's genetic. Maybe you're on the autism spectrum as an adult and you don't even realize it, so you just have a really hard time controlling those emotional reaction patterns. Okay, so when you do that, when you're able to, through repetition, practice more mindfulness, not take it personal, you're able to release more oxytocin in the moment. And when you can release more oxytocin in the moment, then you slow down those outpourings of cortisol. And when you slow down those outpourings of cortisol, it completely changes the dynamic of the higher level thinking of the brain. Completely changes it. It puts you in a space and a capacity to be more loving. It puts you in a space and capacity to actually be able to model love, understanding, relationship. See, these are all essentials. These are all essentials to parenting success. It puts you in a position to be able to model what it really means to teach your child how to be responsible. And what you have to understand is that at 16, he is not 25. At 16, he is 16. So you can't expect him to operate like a 25-year-old. You have to expect him to operate like a 16-year-old in the midst of everything else that he's gone through. But do you see how all of a sudden simple, much simpler that becomes? Because now your ability to not react, let's go ahead and erase that. Your ability to not react actually puts you in a position to not only not increase your child's cortisol, you're actually decreasing it because you are increasing their oxytocin. See, when you can keep your cortisol levels down, then you can increase their oxytocin. See, it's essential. That is essential. That, at the most basic physiological level, is the truth about consequences. It's why consequences do not work. Okay, consequences in relationship to parent-formulated consequences, in relationship to the consequences you read in the book, where you make the long list of 20 consequences you give to a behavior. Consequences in as reactions to angry reactions to your child's misbehavior. It simply doesn't work. Okay, now there's a difference between, and let's just establish this. There's a difference, because I want you to have some to kind of grasp this. There's a difference between a parent formulated consequence versus a natural consequence. Listen, natural consequences cannot be taught. That's what you have to understand. You cannot teach a natural consequence. Okay? It happens automatically. Up here is where we try to teach consequences, but not right here. You see, natural consequences happen automatically, and sometimes we learn from natural consequences, other times we don't. I mean, I've started probably 12 businesses over the course of my entrepreneurial career, my business career. And I have probably had, I would say, at least 8 of those businesses have failed. And they have failed from doing the same thing over and over and over again. See, those are natural consequences to my behaviors. Those are natural consequences to my lack of thinking. So it has taken me years and years and years of failing, essentially having natural consequences, to finally begin to really learn what it takes to be successful. And so then the tides start to change. But it has taken many, many, many repetitions and many, many opportunities of natural consequences. So as a parent, you can't teach your child, you can't give them a natural consequence. It's impossible. And when you create the parent formulated consequences, what you end up doing is you end up increasing the stress and decreasing the oxytocin. See, that becomes really important. All right, now, so let's go over here and let's look at this PowerPoint slide. I'll give you a look at it right here. This one right here. This is my 3 pathways to emotional expression. I'm going to give you a good look at it before I go back to my doodling, because I do like to doodle. So, all right, now, let's see, let's get out of that. You got 3 pathways of emotional expression: attitudes, feelings, and behaviors. All right, so here's what we do. Here's how it happens. 3 pathways: attitudes, feelings, behaviors. The problem is that in our society, attitudes are not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay for children to roll their eyes. It's not okay for children to talk back. It's not okay for them to huff and puff. Okay, but we only have 3 pathways through which to express our emotional energy. Our emotional energy allows us to transition from point A to point B. I could actually teach a whole seminar just on the 3 emotional pathways of expression. So you're going to get the down and dirty. Then we have feelings, okay? It's not okay as a child to express your feelings. It, most of the time, is not okay for an adult to express their feelings. It's not okay for a child to be angry, and I remember with my dad, I couldn't be angry. I'd be sad, and then he'd tell me to suck it up. If I was angry, he'd buck up against me. What are you mad about? You got something to say? So I couldn't be angry. I couldn't be sad. I couldn't cry. So feelings are not okay. So if attitudes are not okay and feelings are not okay, we only have one pathway of emotional expression. We only have one pathway through which we can express our emotions. We only have one pathway through which we can get some emotional release, through which we can try to get some soothing, through which we can try in a maladaptive, oftentimes a failed attempt to get oxytocin. We only have one pathway remaining, and that's behavior. And how many of you are okay with behaviors? You're not. That's probably why you're on the webinar, because you're not okay with behaviors. Behavior scares the crap out of you. Your child has all these negative behaviors, and here's what you don't realize, is that 9 times out of 10, before your child ever drops down to their negative behaviors, they have rolled their eyes, they have huffed and puffed, they have told you that you suck, they have cussed you out. You know, they've done all manner of things at the expression of attitudes and feelings, but guess what? Because of negative programming, guess what you say? Because of negative conditioning, you say to them, those expressions are not okay. Your attitudes aren't okay, your feelings aren't okay, so guess what you end up getting? You end up getting behavior. And if a child is stuck at the level of behaviors with no other options long enough, they only have 2 options. You have anger and you have depression. And when you're stuck at this level of anger and depression long enough, because anger and depression and behaviors are all connected. It's all connected. It's all connected. It's anger, depression, behaviors. Anger, depression, and behaviors. When you're stuck at that level long enough, then what happens is you become conditioned for anger, depression, and behavior. And as a reaction in our society, the reaction to anger and depression and behavior in our society is residential treatment, it's prescriptions, it's dual diagnosis, it's multiple medications, it's disrupted adoptions, and it's frequent moves in foster care. Okay, that's what happens when you have no other options except behavior and anger and depression. You just get stuck. You just get stuck at that level and there's nothing else you can do. And because we don't accept attitudes or feelings, because attitudes and feelings are not okay, then essentially, what can you do? So you just continue in your negative behaviors year after year after year. And this is where consequences come in. Consequences, if you're just willing to be honest, consequences are almost always focused on behaviors. But occasionally, we are so petty that when a child expresses their feelings, we don't like their feelings, we'll give them a consequence. And occasionally, if a child expresses attitudes, we'll give them consequences. So is it any wonder that what we end up with are severe behaviors? I mean, how can you be surprised? You're always surprised because you don't understand the model. And I'm sharing it with you, so now you understand. So then you ask, well, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Well, I'm going to tell you what you're going to do, and you're not going to like it. You're not going to like it because it's not easy. It's simple. It's not easy. Here's the first thing you're going to do. Number 1, start accepting your child's attitudes. When your child rolls their eyes, say to them, first of all, remember our little model. All right? Remember our model. Our model here. Our model here. The goal is to create oxytocin. The goal is to increase oxy, decrease cortisol. All right? So that's the goal. So the first thing you're going to do when your child is giving you attitude is you're going to say, well, first you're going to take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Don't take it personally. Realize it's not about you. This poor child, it's not about me. He's been through all kinds of things in his life. He's so young. He's still got time to learn. It's all going to be okay. It's all going to work out. It's just going to take time. Say those things to yourself. Say, I'm not a bad parent. I'm going to get this worked out. Everything's going to be okay. I'm going to make this happen. We're going to get through this. This too shall pass. Just have faith. Trust in God, whatever it is you guys say. Just say it and be mindful and be focused on it and say, I'm not going to get stressed. I'm not going to get stressed. I'm breathing. I'm breathing, I'm breathing, I'm breathing. And then guess what happens? You look at your child and you say, wow, I guess what I said to you made you mad. And they say, yeah, it made me mad. They say, well, tell me about it. It made you mad. You're mad. Tell me about it. Well, it's not fair. And blah, 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 blah. You know how kids can go on and on and on. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. And guess what you're doing? You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to give in. You just say, I understand. 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 No, you don't. You don't understand. I'm trying to understand. I want to understand. I want to understand. I'm trying to understand. I want to understand. I'm trying to understand. All right? So it's like your mantra. It's over and over and over again. And you know what that does? What that does is it lowers your child's cortisol and increases their oxytocin. And when it's increasing their oxytocin, guess what starts to happen? They start to be able to think a little more clearly. Now, maybe they're just so stressed out they run out of the house. All right? Maybe they're so stressed out, maybe they're so accustomed to their attitudes not being okay that they just drop down to behaviors. Boom, in the behaviors, they run, they thrash around, they, hit someone, or they break something, or just whatever. Maybe that happens. Rarely does it happen. It can happen because children's amygdalas can be so sensitive. And especially as you see, because the same way you're trying to recondition your brain, you're trying to recondition their brain. So you have to realize that this is it's a dynamic process. The same way you're trying to recondition your brain, you also have to recondition their brain. So when you're allowing them their attitudes, and maybe they just shut down on you. See, some kids just shut down. And it's the same thing. I understand, honey, you're upset. No, you don't. Well, I want to. Well, just let me have what I want. I know you want what you want, but I just don't, I'm not okay with it. I don't feel like it's okay. And 7 times out of 10, I'll bet you they stay in attitudes. Or they drop down to feelings. Here's what you're going to do next. When they drop down to feelings, guess what you're going to do? You're going to accept the feelings. I hate you. Forgive me for those of you who have never heard a curse word, but if you've probably never dealt with challenging children if you never heard a curse word. So you hear the words, they say it, you're like, now you're really mad, and I'm sorry I made you really mad, and I hear you. I hear what you said. I wish you wouldn't call me those bad words. Those words hurt my feelings. Tell me how mad you are. Tell me how upset you are. Let's try to use some different words, but whatever. Use the words. Guess what you're doing? You're accepting the feelings. You accept the attitude, you accept the feelings, and the whole time you're reducing the potential for more cortisol. So that's the key. See, that's the neurohormonal, the dynamic that's going on. You're lowering the incidences when you increase the cortisol. And you want to start increasing the incidences when you engage oxytocin, when you encourage oxytocin. So maybe then they drop down to behaviors, because that's where many of them are conditioned at that level. They drop down to behaviors. You have to work with them through the behaviors. Guess what? By the time they get to the behaviors, the broken wall or the torn up whatever, it's already done. Your goal is always, number one, first and foremost, calm yourself down. Get yourself focused. Get yourself mindful. Get yourself quiet. It's always the first goal. Always, 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 always. Nothing else exists. Perfect love and fear cannot coexist. They just can't. And if you're in a place of fear, you're increasing your child's cortisol, you're decreasing their opportunity to learn oxytocin, and it's not going to be effective. So you're not condoning the negative behaviors. You're not saying the behaviors are okay. You're just realizing, because you're rational and you're thinking clearly, you just realize that, oh my gosh, they just broke the chair and that sucks. That really sucks. It's an expensive chair. I used to beg the kids at the group home, get as mad as you want. Please don't break out my windows. Please don't break out my windows. Because windows are expensive, duh. So, do whatever. Run away. Just don't break out my windows. You know what? They run away. I wouldn't chase them. You know why we wouldn't chase them? Because it's 2-year-old behavior. You don't chase. You wait. When they come back, you're really thankful that they come back. And then when things get quiet, then you talk to them. And you say, I really want you to be able to talk to me. I really want you to be able to for us to communicate through this. And you stop trying to suppress the behaviors and stop trying to control the behaviors. And realize that this is a process, and I know it scares the crap out of you. I really do. It is terrifying. It is terrifying. You will oftentimes go to the biggest fear that my kid is going to die, or my kid's going to kill someone else. I mean, it's you go to the biggest fear that you can possibly go to justify your controlling, dominating behavior, and then you rationalize the fact that you have no relationship with your child because you are a caring, loving parent. Well, you're not a caring, loving parent. You are fearful. It's the same for therapists. Therapists who advocate that stuff, that they're not loving therapists. They're afraid. They're scared. Now, I'm not trying to say that in a judgmental way. It may come across that way. Hell, I get scared too. I mean, I got kids. I got lots of kids. 2 9-year-olds, an 18-year-old, and a 21-year-old. So yeah, I adopted son. I get scared too. But what I'm telling you is you can't because see, that's illogical. You can't rationalize your controlling, dominating behaviors and your loss of relationship with your child because you loved your child. Because that's not the truth. You didn't love them. You were afraid. And your fear helped to sever the relationship. Your fear in addition to their fear. They're just reacting to you. So the more fearful you are, and the more stressed out you are, and the more controlling you are, the more they're going to have to control, and especially if they have histories of trauma, because they spent their whole lives being usually controlled by adults or abused by adults. So then now you're back into that brainstem dynamic. So see, you have to be able to think through these dynamics a little bit better. So that's what you do. You accept the attitudes, you accept the feelings, you accept the behaviors. I'm not saying you make it okay. You figure out a way to be able to work with your child through those dynamics. That's what you do. Okay? That's the truth about consequences. As long as you're giving children consequences, you're just going to continue to increase their stress. You're not going to do anything for their cortisol or anything else. And so I'm done because I have to take my child to PetSmart, and I'm not going to leave you hanging though. Here's what I want to do. I want you to go to this website. This link. Go to this link. There's a special, it's not really technically, it's not a special offer because it costs $297. It's my home study course. It's my hands-on home study course. You get a whole bunch of stuff that's going to just blow your mind. If you're not familiar with this model, if you're not studied this model, if you're not put in the time, so you go here to this website. It's postinstitute.com/LP/webinar-offer. Okay? So you go to that site, postinstitute.com/LP/webinar-offer. And let's talk about what comes in this home study course. I know I just flipped your mind. It hadn't even been an hour. Your mind's been flipped. So what makes you think that your mind wouldn't be flipped even more if you learned more? So in this home study course, what you get, first of all, is you get a 4 DVD series. It's me. It's doing an all-day seminar. Right? Fascinating seminar. Tonight I taught you stuff that I don't even talk about in the seminar. I mean, and there's more, but it's in depth. It's thorough. You get a 5-hour CD-ROM. Okay. You get a copy of my Great Behavior Breakdown. You get a copy of Fear to Love. You get 4 audio CDs, and this is stuff. You have an option. I think you can get like the actual physical home study course that we'll ship it to you, or you can actually access all of this information in a digital format. You get a full workbook, you get a CD, step-by-step instructions. You just get a ton of stuff. You get a 12-month worry-free refund. Call it the Post+Institute Peace of Mind 1 year 100% guarantee. So you take the material, study it. It's going to flip your mind. If it doesn't flip your mind, you send an email to David@postinstitute.com. You say, I want a refund. He'll issue a refund. We're not going to argue with you or anything else, because this is just, quite frankly, if you're working with a difficult child, there is no better information out there in the world than this information. I'm just going to be flat out honest with you. So we're doing another bonus. If you order the series, you're also going to get the Great Behavior Breakdown audio. And I'm going to tell you again, I'm just going to be honest with you. I've been doing this for 15 years. There simply is no other information out there that's better than this information. And if there are gurus out there teaching love-based parenting and love-based therapy and all that kind of stuff, 9 times out of 10, I train them. So you're getting it right from the horse's mouth. The cost is $297. And it's one time. I think there may be there's a payment option in there. You can pay it in 3 payments. So you got an option, essentially $100 a month, $300. Okay, it's $300. So here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to do. So again, let's go back. I just want you to make sure you have the slide, and I hope you're listening. All right? I hope you're listening, because here's what I'm about to do. And David's going to have to keep track of this. But I don't do coaching anymore. I don't do very little consulting. Every now and then, I'll do a keynote talk, or I'll go speak to someone's organization. I'm going to be out in Indiana actually in October. I'm going to be in Canada for a day in September, and those are the last month I was in Iowa doing a keynote for juvenile workers. But that's 3 times out of the whole year, and I haven't done any webinars in the last 2 years. Well, maybe I did one. No, I don't even think I did one. I think this is the first webinar I've probably done in 2 years. So I'm not doing any coaching or anything else. To have me come speak for a day is anywhere from $7,500 to $10,000 to come have me talk for one day. When I was doing coaching, and there's in rare occasion, if I do a coaching call, it's $350 an hour. I don't do it. So it's $350 an hour for coaching. Here's what I'm going to do. The first 20 people to order the home study course, I know I flipped your mind tonight. I know you loved what I talked about. So I know it's got you thinking. I know it's got you feeling inspired. I know it's got you thinking about what you can be doing differently with your child. So what I'm going to do, the first 20 people that order this system, and it's just 20, which is actually pretty ridiculous. But for the first 20 people who order the system, I'm going to give you one free coaching call. And that coaching call is going to be an hour-long coaching call, and it'll be on the phone. Once you've gone through the system, we'll sit down, we'll get on the phone together, we'll talk about your individual situation. I'll record it so you can have it. We'll talk about your individual situation, your child, your family, what you can do specifically to make a difference. And that to get coaching with me for 1 hour is $350. So we have a home study course that's $297 that you will have forever, that you can share with everyone. And I'm going to throw in 1 free hour of coaching, one-on-one coaching for the first 20 people who order the home study course tonight. So that's it. Thank you guys for coming and joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was uplifting. I hope it was fulfilling. Send David some feedback, and if you have any questions for David at postinstitute.com. We'll be doing another one soon. If you have some, whatever comments, questions, whatever, we'll be doing another one soon. But first 20 people get 1 hour of free coaching with me, and that's it. God bless each and every one of you. Good night, and keep up the love.
And the final thing that you could do, like they say, the final answer is keep them.
Here I am, 8 years old, hoping just hope that you'll see that my heart is as big as the world is to me. Open the door, please let me in. I'll take off my shoes so I can begin a life of hope, a life of trust, a life of love for the both of us. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Here I am, 16 years old, hoping to move in from the cold into your home, so I may see what this life supposed to be. Open the door, please let me in. I take off my shoes so I can begin a life of hope, a life of trust, a life of love for the both of us. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Won't you keep me in mind when you look in my eyes? Won't you keep me in mind when you look in my eyes? 'Cause here